So much has changed. New house, new school. Worst of all, my big sister's gone for a year.
As your PC gaming guys, we get to review a lot of really interesting independent titles. Today is such a game. We're looking at Gone Home. This is the latest indie sensation, and it's a game unlike other games we've played before. There's no real puzzles to solve, there's no shooting, there's no enemies, there's no score. It's all about telling a story through an environment.
Hi, Mom. So I got my ticket home from Europe.
This is one of those games that's tough because I think it's best to leave as much unknown about it as possible.
I think you're absolutely right.
For people to enjoy it. Basically, you are the eldest daughter of a family returning home from a trip to Europe, and no one is home. But there are things, there are messages, there are things you can find, and journal entries that are sort of read to you as you get to certain points, and it really, really deftly tells its story. I mean, that's the most impressive thing about it. I think the other thing is that it really is a breath of fresh air. But I gotta say, what's funny is that, you know, part of my enjoyment came from expecting this to be like a normal game, and expecting a slasher to come out from somewhere, or like some crazy enemy that I have to deal with. And I have to say that that never happens.
I'm really afraid that's a whole other story.
Unlike a lot of these sort of weird games, I was actually quite satisfied by this, and I enjoyed this a great deal.
Yeah, I think we can tell kind of the basic of the story here. You play as a girl named Katie who's come home from Europe. Your family is not at home, but there's a note on the door from your sister Sam. And as you explore the house, you kind of uncover Sam's story. This is more about Sam than it is about the sister that you're playing. And you explore the house, you find notes, you find just everyday objects that have been left out, and these things all come together to tell a story.
Now maybe nobody knows my name, but they all know who I am. The Psycho House Girl.
So there's kind of three storylines in here, and depending on how hard you work and how much you look and how much time you take, there's just a lot to explore and find out about this family.
You know, at times the game feels a little bit creepy, but that's not really one of the selling points. It really is sort of how well it tells these various stories. I think these guys have done a really interesting job as a piece of interactive fiction here.
The story of Sam and her friend Lonnie, who you hear about through the game, felt really real. The writing for Sam is fantastic. The voice acting for Sam is fantastic. I really bought into this kind of troubled teenager and stuff she was going through, and how she's figuring out stuff in her life. I think the only real knock I have against the game is it really does set up this creepy vibe. But that never really pays off. I mean, maybe it's trying to just kind of fake you out. Maybe it's commenting on how we play games and how we expect things to happen in games, but there's really no scary element.
I don't know, I think this is definitely a game where the narrative is told in such an interesting and unique way that it's definitely worth your time if you are looking for interesting experiences.
The sunset light in this house is the saddest thing I've ever seen.
I think one of the best things that I can say about this game is that it plays with the way that you play games. I was very, very impressed with Gone Home. I'm going to give it an 8.5.
It's a really cool piece of interactive fiction. 8.5 for me as well.